Welcome to the Creative Chats Podcast with Mike Brennan.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Creative Chats. It's the podcast for artist makers and content creators where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and story. I'm your host, Mike Brennan, and you can connect with me on my website, which is mikebrennan.me. And over there are a host of resources created with you just in mind as a fellow creative people. So I know that you realize that this is not my normal setup for Creative Chats, and that's because we are live. That's right, coming to you live from Columbia, Tennessee. And we're here. I'm set up with my artwork as part of the Columbia Arts Council, and it's just an amazing opportunity to be here among the community. And there's going to be a tree lighting tonight. There's going to be all sorts of cool stuff going on. But right now, what I actually have is a live interview for you with my friend Warren Feld. So Warren, say hello to the guests and the audience here tonight.
Say hello, and thank you, Mike, for having me and
Absolutely.
willing to put up with me and my Michigas.
This is going to be an exciting episode. This is the first time, I was telling Warren, this is the first time that I'm doing a live episode. So he's an honored guest tonight. I'm excited to talk to Warren about his creativity, a little bit of his journey and process, and his craft. Man, what an amazing opportunity tonight to be able to do this. Warren, before we dive in too much, why don't you just tell everybody, like, what is it that you do? What is it that you love to do creatively?
I design jewelry, and I design very elaborate, more artistic pieces of jewelry, usually, and I enjoy the challenge. Jewelry is, to me, much harder than a lot of the other arts because people wear it, and so how it looks as people are moving from room to room, settings, standing up, dancing, sitting down. It always looks different. People attribute the qualities of the jewelry to the qualities of the person wearing it. So as a designer, I don't want it to look ugly no matter what the person is doing, and that's what makes it so hard to design with. And I like that challenge. It's my interest.
Yeah. And I'm going to be sure to put a link in the show notes for Warren's website so you can check out his work and see it and just appreciate all the intricate work that goes into that and the colors. We're going to talk a little bit about colors in just a little bit. But yeah, you know, it's really interesting. I remember when I was a kid, my mom, she used to meet with somebody who didn't design jewelry, but certainly someone who would sell. And she was very interested in just this guy coming and setting up this case, and he would kind of take all these things out. And I remember there being this moment, you know, just like her looking through all the stuff, looking for something unique and something that would catch her eye. And the stuff that you do, obviously, completely different level in that there is so much artistry in it, and really appreciate the fact that you dive into that craft. Like, I mean, it's incredible. And the patience, and also I'm sure the eyesight that is needed, something so small. I want to ask, is there something, a correlation maybe that goes back to your childhood creativity? Maybe you were making jewelry, maybe you weren't, but is there maybe something that was like something about assembling things or something about a process that was transferable, do you think?
There was absolutely nothing. I had parents who were very discouraging of doing anything crafts. You know, it was going to be a lawyer or a doctor. I went to a school system that tracked you, and I was in the top groups. The school was very discouraging. So I really never got to experience or even know if I was artistic. When I was finally on my own in my 20s, I thought I'd see if I could paint something. And so there was this deteriorating Black Power poster on a telephone pole. I painted that. Just didn't resonate. I propped it up next to my TV in my living room, thinking, what could I do to make it come alive? It was there for months. I was clueless, absolutely clueless. Finally, I had some interesting ideas. I made something that I liked, and I tried to see if I could draw. So I next drew something that looked like a collage, but it was all drawn and painted with oils. Yes, I could draw when I was a discovery. I did some more paintings, I got bored. And so I didn't do anything creative for 15, 20 years. I was in healthcare. I got burned out. I opened up a little retail store in downtown Nashville, sold artisan jewelry just to make money. And I started making some pieces also just to make money. And everything I made those first few years broke. It all looked good. It was really pretty. It sold, but it didn't last. That was very eye-opening. I made a lot of stuff for country music singers, maybe on stage, and there's stuff coming apart.
Yeah.
I learned some lessons. I was determined to figure out why things broke. And in that process, as I was experimenting, I did repairs on jewelry. I saw how other people make choices. Eventually, I really got passionate about it and got into it more and more and more and more. So today, we're going to talk about color a little bit.
Yeah.
So also, when I started making jewelry, I approached it as if I were a painter. And I just assumed that whatever color I needed, I could find in a jewelry part like a bead.
Right.
But they don't come in every color. And then I thought I could use the color wheel to determine which colors would go together. But the beads don't come in those colors. They might come in 2 of the 3 if you have a 3-color palette, and then you got to make it work. And then I discovered the colors don't look the same when the piece moves. You go from a yellow incandescent light to a fluorescent light, and it's like completely different. It's pretty one place and ugly the other place.
Yeah.
Just started learning all kinds of lessons that you can't paint with beads. You've got to approach the whole process very differently. So I believe you need to approach the process from understanding the materials first. How the materials assert their needs for color. So as the material react to certain lighting conditions? How does it change its color as it's moving? If it's a transparent kind of material, what happens with the light as it goes through it? I've discovered all kinds of things that just don't work when you rely on art theories. And at least at first, that was my crutch. The art theory is an art theory, how to work.
Right.
I'm using color, how to work. It didn't work. What do I do?
Yeah.
You take a transparent capri bead next to a transparent chartreuse bead. That's part of a color scheme. So if you look at it straight on, it's pretty according to the color scheme, color theory. But if someone pivots to the right or pivots to the left, what happens is the light goes through one of the beads, it casts a shadow over the other. It starts to look muddy. So you turn one way, and you get capri over chartreuse, and it's muddy, it's ugly. Well, the tricks you learn in jewelry, if you use something that's gray, silver, has a gray undertone to it, gray picks the colors up around it. So if I put a sterling silver bead between the chartreuse and the capri, and I turn, it intensifies the one color, but it looks pretty. It doesn't turn muddy because it's not overlapping, shadow's not overlapping. So you just learn a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
To play with it. So I have a piece that was on exhibit recently, and I wanted a dark green, and I was using 4 different beads. I couldn't find a dark green in all 4 of the different beads. So I had a medium green I could get in all 4, and to darken it, I mixed it 20% with a dark blue. That's called Montana blue. Montana blue has a gray undertone, so it's always going to pick up the color around it. So the Montana blue mixed with the medium green made the whole piece look like it was a dark green. You really didn't notice the blue, even though it's 20%.
Yeah.
So as a jewelry designer, you have to learn not just color theories based on perceptions, what people see, and they want to know what's universal about what people see. And it is universal until they turn their head.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff is very subjective.
Sure.
So you begin as a jewelry designer to learn a lot about cognition, how people make assumptions, expectations, values, desires, how they influence the perception. And then as you can anticipate the movement with the jewelry, and you can anticipate what's going to happen with the color because you know how the materials are certain needs for color, you can begin to design. It's like you're having, jewelry is not a piece of canvas, it's really a conversation with color. You don't know how to converse with the color as the person moves. These pieces are very exciting, always look good on the person. As the person always look good, it's going to come back to you. Your
Right.
As a jewelry.
Yes. Yeah. there's so much in what you said that honestly could come down to creative problem solving. Like designing isn't just make something look pretty. I mean, especially in your case, because something needs to be functional, something needs to be worn, and like you said, someone needs to be happy with that, where they want to come back to you again and buy something else. And also that what you make stands the test of time, unlike the first ones that you did that you mentioned, right? That that whole mindset and approach of here's a problem I need to solve, and I need to use my creativity doing that. Is there any advice that you would give to somebody? Now, maybe somebody is watching or listening, and it's not jewelry making. They're not a designer in that way. Maybe they're some other creative type, but they're facing some constraints. They're facing some kind of roadblock, or the material that they're using limits them in some way, right? The colors that you talked about, right? What would be a helpful step for that person as they're sitting there trying to solve this problem?
You have to realize you're not alone. You're not the full part of the problem. The full part of the problem includes your client, your audience. It could be a real audience or an imagined one. But you're going to have to compromise because you want them to like what you're doing. That means they have to understand what you're doing. If you think it has value, they have to understand what value it has. So you really need to picture that you're creating something as a dialogue with some other. It's a negotiation. And as you keep building your piece, whatever it is, that negotiation is ongoing. They may have liked it initially, but you do a couple steps and they hate it. You got to figure out what's going on. If you don't work with anticipating the client, you're not going to have stuff that's going to be successful. So I tell people they should design backwards. So it's not the scientific method. You start with a hypothesis, collect data, and make a conclusion. Start with how you think someone's going to evaluate your work. And you make choices. A lot of choices that you never make in a scientific, rational way. It's just a waste of time. Looking for a negotiation over shared understandings, values, desires, and to be a little bit of an anthropologist, sociologist, to figure that out, psychologist.
Sure.
That's critical.
Yeah. Are there ever pieces that you approach where you're like, this is something just for me? I'm not necessarily thinking about customer or client in the end, but I'm thinking about this particular piece is maybe a place where you're going to experiment and play a little bit more, or, push some things, maybe some ideas that you have to see if this could even work. And maybe it turns into something that becomes something client facing.
So almost every piece I make to illustrate a point. Sometimes it's architectural, sometimes it's a color, sometimes it's where it's going to be warm, lighting or issues. But every time I design a piece, I have the wearer in my head and what the wearer is doing. It's not just, I'm not just the only judge. I make the piece just for me. I want to share it. I want to introduce it publicly. And I don't want them to say, oh, God, that's so bad. Why did you do that?
Right. Yeah. You're putting your name on everything that you create that's out there. And that goes for anybody who's creating anything. What you create, if it's public facing, it's your name on it. And so you want to do it with skill, with excellence. You want to make sure you invite people into a process to have that dialogue you were saying, conversation. Sometimes there's education that needs to happen in the midst of that, right? Because they may not be understanding what you're doing and how you're doing it. They may want to see something that maybe it isn't even possible. And there needs to be some conversation, education around, okay, well, here's what we're able to do with this material, or here's where skill sets come in, to play, and it's not simply just, well, dream it up and let's do it necessarily all the time, right? I mean, have you had something where you thought like, okay, here's something that maybe somebody's asking me to do, and it seems a little outside the norm, but you really like leaned into and pushed through? Like, what happened in that scenario?
So when I work with clients, they have opinions.
Yes.
I have opinions. I want the piece to be functional. One has to maintain its shape, but has to be comfortable and move, drape, and flow. A lot of times you have to make trade-offs between construction choices, color choices, in order to make that all work, so it doesn't break. Really, like, imagine if I break. I try to educate the customer if they're being they just don't get it or they have something specific in mind. That I know something. It's a business, so after a while you give the customer what they want. Sometimes I don't understand what the customer wants. So she's a very famous country music star. I won't mention her name. Did a lot of jewelry for her. She came in. She wanted a necklace that was all black, had full of black crosses, but every cross had to be different. So I did a mock-up. She didn't like it. It was exactly what she told me she wanted. So I said, well, give me another chance. Because I kept asking her, what do you want? And she couldn't articulate it. She could sing, but she couldn't talk.
Right.
So did a second mock-up. She still didn't like it. So she always traveled with her entourage. She was like her hairstylist, stage manager, and so always 4 or 5 people with her. They were like a Greek chorus. So she said no, they would say no, all at once. It was freaking me out. So I decided I would speak to each one individually to see if they could tell me what she wanted. Turns out it was pretty deep what she wanted. She practiced a type of Christianity that had a lot of pagan elements in it. She wanted to wear a piece at all her concerts that conveyed a slightly different idea of Christianity, which she practiced. So I realized I needed to design the crosses differently. I needed to be a little bit more irregular, a little bit more three-dimensional. So the third try, after talking to all those people, she liked it. But I could have given up. She couldn't tell me what she wanted.
Right.
You know, I go slap her. When she's Spanish, I can't laugh. She'd sue me. Or her whole entourage was.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that was very freaky.
But, even that, this sense of having to be a detective, having to stay the course and say, well, obviously you could have given up. She could have given up after the first round and said, wow, this isn't going to happen. But to stick with something and go like, let me understand, let me be committed to having deeper conversations, exploring, being that detective, because sometimes people can express what it is that they're seeing in their head or what their preferences are. I mean, I have that same thing happen a lot of times in logo design. People come and they'll want a logo for their business, and sometimes it's they're saying something that somebody else told them, and then through some conversation, I say, well, is this really what you need? Like, I don't want to just give you something just because you think that's what you need when maybe the strategy is wrong, or maybe somebody misinformed you and you're just taking their word for it. Like that conversation, those kind of discovery calls really help unpack some things to go, let's get down to the deeper levels of this so we can really make sure we're on target, because otherwise you can be in this zone where you're just spitballing, trying things, hoping that something connects, and it can be a frustrating experience for you and for them. And everybody wants to have a good experience at the end of the day, right? I mean, nobody wants exactly, especially the artist, because you're like, this is what I do. Right? You don't want to be like, I might as well be sitting in some cubicle somewhere, right? Like, to commit to your craft. So along those lines of committing to the craft and learning and growing, like, are there certain things that you do to push yourself, or certain places you go to learn? Maybe it's new technologies, new methods, I don't know.
Always learning. There are always new things, methods, new techniques every year. So it's when you learn them or try to relate them to what you know. Always practicing. I think the important thing is you have your creative time, your business time, your reflective time. And ideally, it's best to do those in 3 separate locations.
Yes.
Overlap. So that's really important.
Yeah.
I'll do a lot of reflection. And I teach, and I always learn a lot from my students, because everyone understands what you tell them to do in a slightly different way. So you're really learning over and over again how to do something in many different ways, or how to explain things in different ways.
Yes.
That's a big important process.
I think even your point about having a younger audience or people that you're around to draw from, how do they see things, or what's important to this other generation, or maybe there are certain things that they're tapping into and their context is different, but you can borrow from that for what it is that's part of your process. And you're right about being a lifelong learner. I mean, if you are involved in any kind of creative act, you need to commit to that, because I've seen far too many people think like, this is what it looks like, this is what I'm doing, and it's never going to change. And then they're the people, unfortunately, who end up getting left behind when whole industries change. I mean, I see that right now, even with AI, right? Like people who go, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to bury my head in the sand and not be a part of the conversation. I'm not saying that somebody has to either embrace it or not embrace it, but I'm saying at least educate yourself to know what's happening so that you're not simply trying to play catch up when it's so far down the road, or you feel like you've gotten left behind, you know?
You see that a lot in jewelry, because most jewelry can be designed by a computer. It can be made by a machine. That the input of a human, the human has to change out the cartridge in the machine. They don't really need a human. So if you look at the labor statistics, over the last several years, there's been an annual 6% decline in jobs for jewelry technicians. But at the same time, there's been a 1 or 2% increase in jobs for jewelry artists that have a more design, artistic background. I tell those people, I tell everyone, they need to be able to say, very articulate how they can add value to the machines, how they can add value to the AI. Or AI will take the jobs away. You don't need that. You don't need a human for jewelry making. You need to understand that design more contemporary pieces, not at avant-garde. They can be very traditional looking, but they're designed in a contemporary way. That means they have a sense of movement, violation of line and plane, like they have curves, they have dimension. They might have, instead of over two flat overlying pieces, they might have the planes going catty corner. Those are contemporary touches, and those are things the machines can't do.
Yeah.
They can't design that. They can't sell it. They can't even think about it because it's out of the ordinary. There's no historical text. This is the way I design jewelry.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
So that's need to understand that you have to add value to the machines. If you don't understand it, you're not going to succeed as a jewelry maker going forward.
Yes. Yeah. So this has been an amazing conversation. I love all the stuff that you've given as far as your experiences and just your point of view, your process, even a little bit. As we're kind of rounding things out here, is there something for you that you're like, here's a next, here's someplace I want to go that I haven't gone yet? Anything you're maybe working on that you're willing to share, or some things that you're thinking about?
I spent a lot of time thinking about writing, designing jewelry that shows how you can contemporize traditional designs. And I had a workshop a long time ago in Crotone, Italy, where we're contemporizing Etruscan pieces. And right now I'm organizing a tour in Istanbul. Same thing, contemporizing traditional pieces. Istanbul is one of like a handful of jewelry design centers in the whole world. They have 3,000 years of jewelry making. And they're one of the leaders in contemporary design. You can see that kind of how different designers have found sort of a linear way or a way of using traditional motifs in very contemporary pieces. Very exciting way. So I'm looking forward to that trip.
That's nice. That's awesome. I mean, what an opportunity. It sounds really, really amazing. If somebody's listening or they're watching right now and they're thinking, I want to get in touch with Warren, maybe I want to learn more about, jewelry design. Maybe they want to pick your brain on some things, or just even they want to buy some things from you. Where can people go to connect with you?
The easiest place to connect is at my website, warrenfeldjewelry.com. And I'm happy to talk to people. I've written 5 different books on jewelry design. I'm happy to sell them to you. I can get them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I'm always talking to people. I'm always very involved in arts. So very involved in how you use arts and community and economic development. So lots of things that I'm interested in. I'm out there talking about it.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll be sure to put those links in the show notes for you guys so that you can click and follow along really easily. And I encourage you, check out Warren's work, because again, we're in this format right now where unfortunately I can't really show you. And if you're listening to this, it's audio, obviously you don't have the benefit of seeing anything either. But be sure to stop by Warren's website. Warren, thank you so much for this time today. It's been great. And I just hope that people connect with you. And I just wish you all the best.
Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.